And North Country Assemblyman Billy Jones joins us now. Welcome back. It's good to see you again.
It's great to be here, Tom, as always.
We just saw you raise the flag of life this week in Malone to raise awareness of organ donation in New York. The ceremony was also to honor the life of organ donor Jodi Andrews, who was enrolled in the New York State Donate Life Registry. And when she died unexpectedly last fall, her organs were donated and saved the lives of 4 people. And her family talked about that and how proud they are of her doing that.
Yeah, it was a wonderful ceremony. Her family was there. Her daughter gave a very nice reading, and Mike, her husband, as well, got up and actually had a letter from one of the recipients. What we're trying to do, obviously, is honor Jodi for what she had done, and thank her and her family, but also give attention to this very, very important cause. New York State, unfortunately, lags behind in having people register on the organ donation registry. We're 50 out of 52 registries in all of the United States. We're getting better, but we're not there. I believe 48% of our eligible residents are on the registry. We want to get the word out. These are life-saving measures. People can give the gift of life to other people, and it was a wonderful ceremony to do that and to tell that story, but also get the message out that people, can do this. They can give life to other people, and people don't want to talk about it, right? It's we often don't want to talk about our own mortality or even think about it, but we just wanted to assure people that when you do this, you're giving other people hope, you're giving other people life. We also wanted to make sure and tell people how easy it is to do, and that it really does make a difference in people's lives, and it's ultimately the gift of life.
And it's really needed. There's several thousand people on wait list right now.
8,000 people on the wait list right now, and unfortunately, dying, waiting for organs every single day here in this state. Just waiting and wishing and hoping for life-saving measures.
Let's talk a little bit about the new state budget. $237 billion, a record for New York State. I know you have serious concerns about more prison closures. We'll get to that in a moment. But overall, is it a good budget for Northern New York and the North Country?
Well, you know what? I was able to deliver to organizations that help out our farmers and veteran services, a lot of organizations that depend on funding that I'm able to provide. But like I say about our budgets lately, there's some good, some bad. Nobody seems to be happy with the outcome. It was a frustrating process, as I have said before. Probably one of my most frustrating budgets.
Lawmakers really pushed back on the governor and the changes she proposed to the foundation aid formula that would have cut funding to about half the school districts across New York, including many in your district?
Absolutely. I believe it was 337 school districts statewide, many in my district. They wanted to take out the hold harmless policy that's put into place that basically says that school districts can't be lower from what they received last year. And we pushed back against that because, ultimately our school districts need the funding to educate our children. And, if we don't come up with the funding for them, a lot of that responsibility comes back to our property taxpayers. So the school districts have to make it up somewhere.
The governor did back down when all was said and done. The state budget includes $36 billion in school aid. Lawmakers were pretty united in their opposition. Both chambers, though, did go along with the governor agreeing to change how the rate of inflation is used to calculate school aid every year. And lawmakers also agreed that next year this is something you're going to really get down and look at. The Rockefeller Institute is going to do a study, work with the state ed department, and is this something you think next year that there's going to be a lot of focus on whether the formula gets changed?
Absolutely, there's going to be a focus on it, the governor has already said. But what we've been asking for many years is the foundation aid formula. Nobody is happy with the foundation aid formula because a lot of our rural school districts and our school districts that tend to lose population, do you do it per pupil? Do you do it on a property tax base? There's a lot that goes into it, but what we're asking for is some kind of solution to make sure that nobody gets hurt in this, no school district gets hurt in this, and that we can be fair in, putting these funds out to our school districts. So, I know a lot. We were pushing for the inflation, remedy to put up there. I think I know a lot of my school districts received a bump in that, but some didn't. I think it was a major win to get us back to the hold harmless and to get a bump in the inflation to get school districts a little more, but certainly some school districts stayed at a zero there.
And next year, will you fight to keep hold harmless?
I will always fight to keep hold harmless, but I think we really need to look at and sit down with the people that know what's going on in these school districts and as far as budgeting, to make sure that we don't harm school districts. We have a lot of work to do on that. Hopefully some good things will come out of this, this money we put forward for a task force to look at foundation aid, and we'll see how it comes out.
Were there things in the budget that you wished had more funding? I know when you were here in January, you talked about funding for seniors being a priority, for in-home care, community-based care, even for nursing homes. Was that funding included in the budget?
Well, absolutely. We're always pushing for that. I was big on providing our nursing homes with more Medicaid reimbursement to help with the rebasing of the calculation in those homes and the per day cost that it costs these nursing homes, because they're struggling getting staffing, right? So I think it's our fundamental duty here as people of New York State and as a government to make sure that we take care of our seniors. Not all the funding that we wanted in there. We're going to continue to work on it. Also talking about our seniors, you've held many forums here about the non-Medicaid wait lists that we have to help out our seniors in home care. We were able to get back to where they were last year, and just a little bump, but certainly not enough. There were several of us pushing for that. We all know that if we can keep our loved ones and our neighbors aging in place, aging in their homes, that it's a lot more affordable than nursing homes.
There's once again language in the budget that allows the governor on pretty short notice to close more state prisons, up to 5. Does it simply give her the option, or is it written in a way that you think the state will follow through and look at to close the prisons?
I believe if they were asking for it, there are steps in place to do that. What this does in the budget, and I believe it started out in the previous administration years ago. The governor has always had the authority to close prisons. It's in the statute. They can close prisons with a year's notice. What has been happening in the last several budgets is that they have put in a provision in there for a 90-day notice. As soon as they decide to close the prison, you get 90 days instead of a year. We fought back against that in the Assembly. It wasn't in our one-house budget. But ultimately it did get into the budget. A lot of communities here in the North Country, as you know, depend on those correctional facilities. They provide a lot of jobs for people, civilian and, in the correctional officers and staff. So, yes, it's nerve-wracking for a lot of people here.
Any indication from the state or from DOCS, Department of Corrections, which prisons could be targeted?
I don't believe they've made their decisions yet.
How many do you have here in your district?
Oh, I have 6 in my district. No matter which way you lie on, incarceration, I think some of these services are necessary, and obviously we want to see, good, safe correctional facilities, here in the North Country and throughout the state. My point in this is being that there have been policies put in place that have undermined the safety of these correctional facilities. We're talking about, the HALT Act and or, the deterioration of the disciplinary system in these facilities. You need to have order within these facilities. So I think by doing that, we've made these facilities less safe.
Another concern you've had for a number of years is what the state does with prisons. It closes down Lion Mountain, Camp Gabriel, Chateauguay, Mariah Shock just a couple of years ago. All sit vacant, no plans to sell or redevelop them. And I know for you and other lawmakers here in the North Country, that's always been a real bone of contention, that you're closing these prisons that are so important economically to these communities, and you don't have plans for them.
Absolutely, and I think everyone can agree with that, no matter what you feel about, incarceration. But we have facilities. I have 3 in my district alone that have shuttered. No plan to do anything with them. Now, I have a bill actually out that says any state facility, whether it be a DEC facility, Department of Corrections facility, whatever, they must have a plan for reuse of that facility when they close it down. The issue that I have in my district a lot of times is, if it sits in Forest Preserve or a Forest Preserve county, we have to get a state amendment. We have to give up more land, get a state amendment for reuse of these facilities. That's another hurdle that we have to put up with here, in the North Country, and it's frustrating to say the least.
Let me ask you about that. The governor this year did talk about reusing prisons or prison property for new housing. Any indication that whether any of the prisons in the Adirondacks could be considered for that, and would the question over amendments be a problem in getting them used for housing?
Yeah, well, you have to have the amendment first, and we've struggled to get an amendment through for reuse of these facilities. And I think there could be reuse in these facilities, and we need to look into that. You talk about housing. That's one reuse. I have not seen any hardcore plan that would initiate that or implement that to make it happen.
The governor did get her housing plan through this year. A lot of focus on New York City, initiatives there. Other parts of the plan, though, good for up here in the North Country as far as getting new developments or affordable housing?
There's some things in affordable housing that more incentives that have been put forward there. But as I always say here in the North Country, Tom, and talking to everyone, our issue is housing stock. We have come on board, and you've been to many of them, affordable housing. We have had these affordable housing complexes open for people, but a lot of people are struggling to buy that home. They're struggling, to actually find a decent house. So we need incentives to build more housing. We need housing stock, but we need it affordable, and I think the state should come in with more incentives to do that.
Assemblyman Billy Jones, thanks a lot for taking the time.
Always great to be here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.